It is Wednesday, the 6th of April 2016, a day when Kenya is still rife with reactions following the verdict delivered from the ICC on the no case to answer for Deputy President William Ruto and Joshua Arap. This is the KTN Newsdesk. Many thanks for joining us. My name is Akisa Wandera. Now, Karim Khan and Katwa Keegan were the lead lawyers in the just dismissed case of Ruto and Sang. They have just concluded a press conference at a Nairobi hotel, and our reporter Duncan Haemba, who attended the press conference, will be joining us later on via phone to give us the latest from what the two lawyers for Deputy President William Ruto and radio journalist Joshua Arap Sang said. Duncan Haemba will be joining us later on in the program to give us the latest on what happened or what was said by Deputy President William Ruto's lawyer Karim Khan and Joshua Arap Sang's lawyer Katwa Keegan in a press briefing held in one of the hotels in Nairobi. Moving on, there has been a lot of reactions and celebration for following the particular incident or the delivery of the verdict by the ICC. But before we get into those celebrations, let us just speak to Duncan Haemba. I understand we have him on phone. Duncan Haemba, what is the reaction for Deputy President William Ruto's lawyer and radio journalist Joshua Arap Sang's lawyer following the dismissal of that case?
Mixed reaction here. Remember that we had the three, that is, as you've said, Ruto's lawyer, Sang's lawyer, and the victim's lawyer, and they seem not to agree on a number of things. But what I can confirm is that for the Sang's lawyer, Katwa Keegan, he says that they are considering to appeal because what they want is a full unqualified acquittal. Remember, as things stand, there's no closure on the matter, and therefore the case can be re-prosecuted at any given point. And therefore they are saying, Katwa Keegan states on his client's beat, he says that the fact that Sang is not culpable in any way for witness interference, and on intolerable political meddling, Sang has no political interference, then they have no choice than to consider an appeal so that they get an unqualified acquittal. Karim Khan on his side says that they are still studying the ruling, and they might also consider making an appeal to ensure that the deputy president is completely off the hook. So that is the reaction that they are having, and that is what, as things stand, those are the avenues that they are considering. But for Sang, they are very explicit that, yes, they are going to work on an appeal that should be lodged in the shortest time possible. Akisa.
Duncan, kindly just paint a picture for our viewers. Does this mean that if at all the lawyers are able to appeal, we are getting into another case altogether?
As things stand, and from the argument that I've seen, the difference that have emerged here with from the victim, the lawyer, that is Wilfred Ndericho, differing with the defense counsel, that is Karim and Katwa. Clearly, there is a lot that needs to be worked on, and as far as they are concerned, that judgment is open. There's no closure on the issue at all, and therefore, as it is, it might not be time maybe for celebration, and that should be the reason why Sang's team, they are saying they are going to push for an appeal if possible. So right now you can't exactly tell which direction things will be taking, but as it is, maybe we could be saying there may be 70% of the hook.
Thank you very much, Duncan, for that update. That is our political reporter, Duncan Haemba, joining us via phone, saying the lawyers for Deputy President William Ruto, who is Karim Khan, and for radio journalist Joshua Arap Sang, Katwa Keegan, say that they're going to appeal the decision by the court to get a complete acquittal of the cases for Deputy President William Ruto and radio journalist Joshua Arap Sang. Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta yesterday announced announced that he will lead the nation in celebrating Kenya's acquittal from the International Criminal Court cases. And as celebrations continue in different parts of the country, President Kenyatta said this would be an opportunity for prayers for healing, reconciliation and unity of Kenya. Uhuru joined other leaders in congratulating his deputy William Ruto and radio journalist Joshua Arap after the International Criminal Court judges terminated their case. The president said he was delighted that Ruto and Sang had been vindicated, and he, however, added that the victory was partial and the quest for justice is incomplete since the ICC blindly pursued ill-conceived defective agenda at the expense of accountability for post-election violence.
Nafurahi kwa hiyo kesi ya Ruto kuisha. Nashukuru Mungu sana. Nimemwambia na asanti. Sasa kila mtu ashukuru Mungu. Na watu warudi kanisani. Watubu. Waseme mambo hiyo imeisha.
Leo tunashukuru Mungu kwa vile kesi ya William Ruto na ndugu wetu Sang. Leo hiyo imekwisha. Kwa hivyo tunataka hawa sasa we concentrate on kazi. Ndio? Na tunawaambia sasa tufanye kazi na tuache vita na tuache mambo isiyo na maana. Tuendelee na kazi, mashinani bado tunataka pesa, tunataka maendeleo na mpango ya national government. We now don't want any more excuses and no more tensions in the country over who is in ICC or who is not in ICC. So hiyo maneno ikwishe sasa. Tunataka Jubilee watumie sasa hiyo mwaka moja wahakikishe wamepatia wananchi wa Kenya vile waliwaahidi.
And still on the same, the Jubilee Alliance Party has welcomed the ruling by judges of the International Criminal Court terminating the case against Deputy President William Ruto and journalist Joshua Arap. Here is a statement they made earlier on.
Add our voices in giving thanks to the Almighty for ushering in this new day and a new dawn for Kenya. It's surely a fresh new Kenya. The Deputy President has been a strong believer in justice, and he kept his strong belief in God. The "let us go to Hague, don't be vague" slogan is a strong vindication of his resolutiveness and belief in his innocence and the pursuit of the rule of law. It is therefore time to go back to our knees and continue praying for one another, to forgive one another, to be our brothers' keepers and pursue the healing of the wounds of the dark past, a dark political past that was born out of tribal politics, ethnic divisions and disunity, a past which we Kenyans should not forget, one that we should always remember for the sake of the future generations. We ask Kenyans to join the Deputy President in his call for unity and the merger process of Jubilee Party that is ongoing now. With the February release of funds to resettle the IDPs, which was presented by His Excellency the Deputy President, the Jubilee government has kept the promise to provide homes and new opportunities for our brothers and sisters displaced by the violence. Kenyans also need to support the government in resettling the IDPs and those who may still be in the camps. Recently, we have witnessed violence in some political quarters. It is our strong belief that the Kenyan Constitution, as is being implemented by the Jubilee government, shall continue to offer protection to all Kenyans irrespective of tribe, region or gender. This is the condition that we face the politics in Kenya today and invite the opposition to shun and refrain from courting violence as we witnessed in Malindi and most recently, of course, in Kakamega. We tell them that Kenyans want peace. Kenyans demand peace and Kenyans shall be peaceful. We shall continue to put our numbers strongly to support the government in its fight against corruption and divisive politics. This is a new Kenya.
Now, hours after the ICC dismissed Kenyan cases at the court, focus now is on the victims of the horrific ordeal that left thousands dead and many more displaced. One woman is a gang rape victim of the 2007-2008 post-election violence. She contracted HIV after at least 8 men violated her. She is now living with a disability due to the horrific ordeal. 8 years down the line, Jane, not her real name, narrates her story to Najma Ismail.
Eight years ago, Kenya was turned upside down due to a disputed presidential election. The country was a shadow of what it used to be. Ethnic violence cast a dark cloud with over 1,500 people killed, 600,000 displaced, and over 900 women raped. It is hard to believe that 8 years have passed since her horrific ordeal, and as some might remember the post-election violence vividly, for Jane, the memory remains fresh in her mind.
Usiku nilikuwa kwa nyumba. Nilikuwa peke yangu, bwana yangu hakuwa. Alafu watu wakakuja. Walikuwa wamefunga macho, wakabeba panga. Wa mbele hakuwa na hiyo ujasiri. Wa pili akamuuliza, "Bado unafanya nini na yeye?" Akanishika, akanisukuma, wakakata manguo. Wakaanza kunirepu. Walinirepu, walikuwa watu wengi.
One by one, the hooded men took turns at her. She couldn't put up a fight as the men overpowered her. They kept flashing their crude weapons on her face just to remind her to stop screaming. Since the country was in turmoil, no one dared to come to her rescue.
Ilikuwa ile nyakati ya kupigana, mimi ni hospitali nilikuwa naenda sababu kwa polisi singeweza.
That night, when her husband came home, her once blissful marriage changed forever. Jane's husband was so affected by his wife's ordeal, he refused to accept the circumstances and went into denial. And when Jane found out she had been infected with HIV, her husband became irrational.
Alikuwa tu wazimu, yeye anataka have sex bila condom. Hapo tu ndio nilikuwa namchukia, but anasema hiyo ni mapenzi yake juu anakunywa pombe. Akishalewa pombe inamwambia mimi ni bibi yake.
Jane's husband refused to take antiretroviral drugs and continued to seek solace in the bottle. He eventually died in 2009.
Akakataa madawa, akaambiwa atumie, akakataa, akasema alikuwa anakunywa pombe, akasema yeye bibi yake anataka aanze, atamaliza bila alianza nayo. Hatatumia kondom. Hata kama ni kifo atapata hapo, wacha kufe. Kitu nasikia uchungu ile siwezi explain sababu nimekuwa human disability sababu ya hiyo kitu.
It was uphill for Jane from here. She suffered a stroke that affected the entire left side of her body. She's unable to fend for herself.
Saa zingine mula na njaa. Sina mtu wa kusaidia na njaa. In most cases mwishi tu njaa. But nilirudi nikaokoka, nikasema kwa hayo yote nipende Mungu, Mungu ananipenda kushinda binadamu.
Jane gets intimately lonely most of the time, but says she's not ready to commit herself to any man.
Kuna wale wananitaka. Nawaambia niko na virusi, hawataki kujua. Ananiambia hiyo virusi yangu ndio wanataka juu. ni hiyo yangu ina look niko sikai mtu niko nakaa mtu niko na virusi.
Many survivors of rape during the post-election chaos said their attackers used guns, sticks, bottles and other crude objects to sexually assault them. Many were raped in the presence of family members, including young children.
I'd really like the government to refocus their attention on the rape victims, especially victims and survivors of the post-election violence, and to remove the politics away. We were just victims of circumstances, actually, and we survived the experiences of being raped. Some of us gang raped, some of us raped by policemen, some of us raped by just gangsters and hooligans during that time. And I'd like to dissociate the politics from it and actually just let the government know that we need justice for the survivors.
Only a few people have been prosecuted for the sexual violence during the post-election violence period. A report from a Truth, Justice and Reconciliation Commission completed in 2013 is yet to be adopted by Parliament. Najma Ismail, KTN News.
Thank you, Najma, for that report. That is a conversation that KTN News team refuses to ignore, even as the country celebrates, or there is celebration in various parts of the country from the termination of the cases against Deputy President William Ruto and radio journalist Joshua Arap Sang. And joining us now from our City Centre studios is Edward Were Onge, who is an advocate of the High Court, just to put the plight of the victims into perspective. Edward, thank you very much for joining us. What next for the victims, even as the ICC gave its verdict yesterday?
It appears that nobody is speaking on behalf of the victims, or nobody is speaking for the victims. In my view, unfortunately, it looks like it's game over for them. There is nothing that seems to suggest that there is something else after the acquittal for the victims.
Thank you very much, Edward. I will have to stop at that, but we will be joining Edward Onge later on as we continue with our bulletin, just to put the plight of the victims into perspective. Edward is an advocate of the High Court. He will be joining us from the City Centre studios. But let us now take a short commercial break. We will be back with more, of course, the conversation with Edward Onge, an advocate of the High Court. Don't go too far.
I am Carol Nderi in Nyeri, and this is KTN News.
Watu walikuja kumchukua kulingana na hiyo obi walikuwa maaskari 7.
Kutoka nimjue, sijasikia kama amechokoza mtu.
Alitoka nyumbani kwake mwezi Februari kununua gari mjini Malaba.
Huyo mtu akamwambia ana gari, anauza na alikuwa na shida ya school fees.
Lakini ikawa ndiyo mara ya mwisho kwa familia yake kumuona akiwa hai.
Polisi 7 ambao wako armed kuja kushika mtu ambaye ashashikwa na ako kwa cell tayari.
Je, ni nini kilichotendeka kwa Abubakar Mohamed?
Hasa mimi kushtuka kwangu ni ya kwamba amekamatwa.
Wale maaskari sasa sema hawa wanaenda tu kuuawa.
Ungana nami Robert Wanyonyi kwa makala maalum Kisima cha Hangaiko.
Years of devolution.
If this facility could not be here, the child would be in danger.
The gains in health services.
We have increased the number of the health facilities.
3 years ago, we struggled to do about 14, 15 operations. We go to 25 now.
The challenges.
The scarcity of medicine.
The personnel we don't have.
The way forward.
The budget for health to be improved.
We need more specialized staff.
We need a health services commission.
Those teething problems we are overcoming.
Join me for a 2-part series, Health in Devolution, at 8:30 p.m. only on KTN News.
My name is Dorcas Wangira in Kakamega, and this is KTN News.
Welcome back. You are watching KTN Newsdesk. Now, manager Claudio Ranieri has said that the Leicester City is dreaming of winning a maiden Premier League title, but stressed the need for his men to remain calm and professional. Leicester has the advantage of being the underdog. Its players are full of the hunger that comes from knowing rejection at some point in their careers. Every time they step on the field, they have nothing to lose, and that is their title race drive. But will they win the Premier League?
The King Power Stadium, nobody wants to wake from the impossible dream, least of all those who hold the club closest to their hearts.
I'll tell you what's been beautiful is been sharing it with my boys. 3 of my lads are Leicester fans, so you know, having that experience of them watching it together has been wonderful. It's been excruciatingly painful at times because it's agonising watching them at present because it matters so much, but it's been a great experience.
This weekend's results put Claudio Ranieri's side in a great position. Some of the King Power faithful believe the job is done. But whatever you do, don't say the title is Leicester's to lose.
Don't like that phrase, theirs to lose, but clearly they're in a brilliant position. But, you know, we all know what football's like. You know, you lose one and then doubts creep in and stuff. But at the minute they look pretty solid and they look okay. But I don't know, there's part of me that's, and I've said this the whole season, that's kind of waiting for the collapse. So I'm going to keep saying that because it's worked so far.
A collapse at this stage of the season last year would have seen Leicester relegated.
It's quite extraordinary, really. I think what's happening is it's truly unthinkable. If you take where they were a year ago and winning 7 out of the last 9 just to miraculously stay up, which was incredible, but to continue that momentum, was remarkable. Different manager, different tactics. It's just mad. It can't happen, really. It's genuinely that I think the biggest surprise in team sport that I can remember. If of course they go on to finalise it.
Despite the 7-point advantage and almost everyone bar Tottenham and Arsenal fans pulling for Leicester, there's still a long way to go. But in Ranieri, they have a manager who has kept his players grounded all season. He just needs to retain that focus for the remaining games.
Well, that's all we had lined up for you on the KTN Newsdesk. Many thanks for joining us. But do join us on the KTN2 News as we continue with this bulletin. Edward Were-Ong, an advocate of High Court, will be joining us on the second part of this bulletin on KTN News, talking about the plight of the victims of the 2007-2008 post-election violence. What next for them, even after the last 2 cases at the ICC have been terminated? Do join us for that conversation. My name is Akisa Wandera. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon and keep it KTN News.